Have you ever wondered how one of the world's most magnificent ancient cities was founded? The story of Tenochtitlan, the heart of the Aztec Empire, is not just a tale of construction, but an epic saga of faith, prophecy, and incredible perseverance. It begins in a place shrouded in mist and legend, Aztlan, the mythical northern homeland of the Aztec people, a place whose exact location remains a mystery to this day. It was here, in this ancestral home, that their journey began. The Aztecs, then a nomadic tribe known as the Mexica, received a divine command from their powerful patron god, Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun and war. His instructions were clear. They were to leave Aztlan and embark on a great migration. They were to walk, to wander, and to search for a new home, a promised land that he had chosen for them. But how would they know when they had found it? Huitzilopochtli gave them a very specific and truly extraordinary sign to look for. He told them to search for an eagle, perched majestically on a prickly pear cactus, holding a writhing serpent in its sharp beak. This celestial symbol, this powerful omen, would mark the exact spot where they were destined to build their great city and establish their empire. This prophecy lit a fire in their hearts, giving them the courage and determination to leave everything they knew behind and step into the unknown. And so the Great Migration began. For nearly 200 years the Aztec people wandered. Imagine the sheer scale of this journey, spanning generations. They traveled south, crossing harsh deserts, navigating rugged mountains, and traversing dense forests. This was not an easy journey. They faced starvation, exhaustion, and conflict with other tribes who saw them as unwelcome intruders. They were tested at every turn, their faith in Huitzilopochtli's promise, the only constant in a life of uncertainty. They would settle for a time, build temporary homes, plant crops, and then, guided by their priests, they would pack up and move on, always searching, always watching the skies for their sign. This long period of wandering forged them into a resilient, disciplined, and unified people, preparing them for the great destiny that awaited. Their culture deepened, their warrior spirit was sharpened, and their collective identity as the chosen people of Huitzilopochtli grew stronger with every step. After centuries of relentless searching, their long pilgrimage finally led them to the Valley of Mexico. And there before them lay a breathtaking sight, Lake Texcoco. It was a vast, shimmering expanse of water, a network of 5 interconnected lakes surrounded by lush marshlands and volcanic peaks. The area was already bustling, home to powerful city-states and advanced civilizations. The Aztecs were latecomers, seen as outsiders, uncultured, and unwelcome. They were pushed to the margins, forced to settle in the least desirable lands, on the swampy, snake-infested shores of the lake. For many, it might have seemed like the end of the road, a final, disappointing stop after a journey of 2 centuries. But the Aztec priests insisted that their divine quest was not over. They urged their people to keep faith, to keep searching, for the prophecy had not yet been fulfilled. And then, one fateful day, it happened. On a small marshy island in the middle of Lake Texcoco, a group of Aztec scouts saw it. The vision from their prophecy, alive and real before their very eyes. A magnificent eagle, its feathers shining in the sun, stood proudly atop a prickly pear cactus. And clutched firmly in its powerful talons and beak was a serpent. The sign was undeniable. This was the place Huitzilopochtli had promised them. After 200 years of wandering, their epic search was finally over. The feeling of awe, relief, and divine affirmation that must have washed over them is almost impossible to imagine. They had found their home. In the year 1325, on that very island, the Aztecs began the monumental task of building their city. They named it Tenochtitlan, which means the place of the prickly pear cactus. But building a major city on a swampy island in the middle of a lake presented enormous engineering challenges. How do you build solid foundations on soft, unstable ground? How do you create farmland where there is only water? The Aztecs proved to be brilliant engineers and innovators. They devised an ingenious system of foundations, driving wooden piles deep into the soft lakebed to support their temples and palaces. To create more land for housing and agriculture, they built chinampas, often called floating gardens. These were artificial islands made by weaving together reeds and stakes, piling mud and silt from the lake bottom on top, and planting trees like willows at the corners to anchor them. These chinampas were incredibly fertile, allowing the Aztecs to harvest multiple crops a year and feed a rapidly growing population. They created a city of canals, with canoes serving as the primary mode of transportation, earning it the nickname, the Venice of the New World. 3 massive causeways, wide and sturdy, connected the island city to the mainland, complete with bridges that could be raised to defend the city from attack. From these humble, swampy beginnings, Tenochtitlan grew into one of the most spectacular cities on Earth. In less than 200 years, it transformed from a small settlement into a sprawling, meticulously planned metropolis, a marvel of urban design. At its peak, Tenochtitlan was the vibrant heart of the Aztec Empire, home to over 140,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in the world at the time, larger than Paris or London. Fresh water was brought into the city from springs on the mainland through a massive twin-pipe aqueduct, a testament to their advanced engineering skills. At the very center of the city stood the sacred precinct, a massive walled square that was the religious and political heart of the empire. Inside were dozens of towering temples and pyramids, including the Templo Mayor, a colossal double pyramid dedicated to Huitzilopochtli, their patron god, and Tlaloc, the god of rain. The city was a bustling hub of commerce with a giant market in the nearby district of Tlatelolco, where tens of thousands of people gathered daily to trade goods from every corner of the vast Aztec Empire, from cocoa beans and tropical feathers to gold, silver, and precious stones. The legacy of this incredible story is still alive today. The prophecy that led the Aztecs to their home, the eagle devouring the serpent on a cactus, remains a powerful symbol of origin and destiny. If you look at the flag of modern Mexico, you will see that very same image at its center. It is a proud and enduring reminder of the ancient migration, the divine prophecy, and the incredible city that rose from a swampy island to become the heart of a great civilization. The story of Tenochtitlan is a timeless testament to the power of faith and the resilience of the human spirit. Imagine a thriving metropolis, larger than any European city of its time, built right in the middle of a lake. This isn't science fiction. This was Tenochtitlan, the magnificent capital of the Aztec Empire. Today, we're journeying back in time to explore this incredible city built on water, a testament to human ingenuity and a civilization that flourished against all odds. In the early 14th century, the nomadic Mexica people, who would later become known as the Aztecs, were searching for a home. According to their legends, their god Huitzilopochtli promised them a sign: an eagle perched on a cactus, devouring a snake. After years of wandering, they finally found this exact scene on a small, marshy island in the middle of Lake Texcoco. It was here, in this seemingly inhospitable place, that they founded Tenochtitlan in 1325. Building a city on a swampy island presented enormous challenges. The ground was unstable and resources were scarce. But the Aztecs were brilliant engineers. Their solution was as ingenious as it was ambitious. They created chinampas, often called floating gardens. These were man-made islands built by weaving a frame of reeds and then piling mud and vegetation from the lakebed on top. These chinampas were incredibly fertile, allowing the Aztecs to grow multiple harvests a year, feeding a population that would eventually swell to over 200,000 people. These chinampas weren't just for farming. They became the very foundation of the city, interconnected by a vast network of canals that served as the city's streets. Instead of walking, people navigated Tenochtitlan in canoes, paddling through the bustling waterways. The city was a vibrant tapestry of homes, markets, and temples, all seemingly floating on the shimmering surface of the lake. To connect their island city to the mainland, the Aztecs built 3 massive causeways. These were wide, raised roads made of stone and earth, stretching for miles across the water. They were marvels of engineering, equipped with drawbridges that could be raised to defend the city from attack or to allow boat traffic to pass. These causeways were not just functional. They were grand entrances, gateways to the heart of a powerful empire. At the center of Tenochtitlan was the sacred precinct, a massive walled enclosure that was the religious and political heart of the Aztec world. This area was dominated by the Templo Mayor, or Great Temple. This colossal pyramid wasn't just one structure but a twin temple, dedicated to 2 of their most important gods: Huitzilopochtli, the god of sun and war, and Tlaloc, the god of rain and agriculture. The Templo Mayor was a sight to behold, rising nearly 150 feet into the sky. It was constantly being rebuilt and expanded by successive rulers, each layer adding to its size and grandeur. The temple was the site of elaborate ceremonies, festivals, and famously, human sacrifices. which the Aztecs believed were necessary to appease the gods and maintain cosmic balance. Imagine the spectacle: priests in elaborate headdresses, the beat of drums echoing across the plaza, and the entire city gathered to witness these powerful rituals. Beyond the sacred precinct, the city was meticulously organized. It was divided into 4 large sectors or campans, which were then subdivided into smaller neighborhoods called calpules. Each calpule had its own school, its own market, and its own local temple. This organization created a strong sense of community and made managing the vast city much more efficient. Life in Tenochtitlan was vibrant and complex. The markets were legendary. The largest, the market of Tlatelolco, was a sprawling hub of commerce that astonished the first Spanish conquistadors who saw it. Tens of thousands of people gathered there daily to trade goods from all corners of the empire. You could find everything from gold, silver, and precious feathers to cacao beans, which were used as currency, and a vast array of fruits, vegetables, and meats. It was a sensory explosion of sights, sounds, and smells. The Aztecs also had a sophisticated society with a strict social hierarchy. At the top was the emperor, the Hui Tlatoani, who was seen as a semi-divine ruler. Below him were the nobles, priests, and warrior elites. Then came the commoners, who were farmers, artisans, and merchants. And at the bottom were the slaves. Despite this rigid structure, there was some social mobility. A commoner could rise in status through exceptional bravery in battle, for example. Education was highly valued. All Aztec children, regardless of their social class, attended school. Boys and girls were taught separately. Boys from noble families went to the Comicac to be trained as future leaders, priests, or government officials, learning about history, astronomy, and religion. Commoner boys went to the Telpochcali, where they received military training and learned a trade. Girls were taught domestic skills, weaving, and religious songs. But this incredible civilization was not to last. In 1519, the Spanish conquistador Hernan Cortes arrived on the shores of Mexico. When he and his men first laid eyes on Tenochtitlan, they were dumbfounded. One of his soldiers, Bernal Diaz del Castillo, wrote that they felt like they were seeing something from a dream. The gleaming white temples, the bustling canals, the sheer scale of the city, it was unlike anything they had ever witnessed in Europe. Initially, the Aztec Emperor, Moctezuma II, welcomed the Spaniards, perhaps believing Cortes was a returning god. But the relationship quickly soured. After a series of complex events, including the imprisonment of Moctezuma and a brutal massacre of Aztec nobles, war broke out. The siege of Tenochtitlan in 1521 was a brutal and tragic affair. The Spanish, aided by tens of thousands of indigenous allies who resented Aztec rule, laid siege to the city. They cut off the causeways and the aqueducts that supplied fresh water. For nearly 3 months, the Aztecs fought fiercely to defend their home, street by street, canal by canal. But they were ultimately overcome by superior weaponry, tactical advantages, and, most devastatingly, a smallpox epidemic that wiped out a huge portion of the population. On August 13, 1521, Tenochtitlan fell. The Spanish systematically dismantled the city, using the stones from the raised temples and pyramids to build their own colonial capital right on top of the ruins. The great Templo Mayor was destroyed, and a cathedral was built in its place. The canals were filled in, and the lakes were drained over the centuries. The magnificent city on the water vanished, buried beneath what is now modern-day Mexico City. For a long time, the story of Tenochtitlan was told mainly by its conquerors. But in the 20th century, archaeologists began to uncover its secrets. In 1978, electrical workers digging near the central square of Mexico City stumbled upon a massive stone disc depicting the Aztec moon goddess Coyolxauhqui. This discovery led to the excavation of the Templo Mayor, which you can visit today, a stunning archaeological site right in the heart of one of the world's largest cities. Tenochtitlan is a powerful reminder of the incredible achievements of pre-Columbian civilizations. It was a marvel of urban planning and engineering, a city that not only survived but thrived in an environment that seemed impossible. Its story is one of innovation, resilience, and ultimately, tragedy. But even though the city itself is gone, its legacy endures, buried but not forgotten, beneath the streets of Mexico City, a testament to the empire that built a metropolis on water. In the beginning, there was darkness, a void. From this void, the gods emerged, and in an act of supreme creation, they conceived the universe. But for their greatest creation, the fifth sun, to move across the sky, a sacrifice was needed. The gods themselves had to die. They cast themselves into a great fire, their divine energy bursting forth to ignite the sun and set the world in motion. This primordial sacrifice was not a one-time event. It was a cosmic debt, an obligation that fell upon the shoulders of humanity, the inheritors of this new world. The Aztecs believed they were born into a universe sustained by divine self-destruction, and in turn, they were bound to repay this debt. Their mission was to nourish the gods, to keep the sun on its journey, and to maintain the very fabric of existence. The currency for this cosmic transaction was the most precious substance imaginable: life itself. Tonali, the vital life force, contained within the human heart and blood. This was the foundation of the Aztec worldview, a universe born from sacrifice and sustained by it. At the center of this pantheon of thirsty gods stood Huitzilopochtli, the hummingbird of the south. He was the god of the sun, of war, and the patron deity of the Mexica people. Every single day, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Huitzilopochtli began a perilous journey through the underworld, battling the forces of darkness, the stars and the moon, to ensure the dawn would break once more. This celestial struggle was not guaranteed. He required immense energy, a constant supply of tonali, to fuel his fight. Without it, the sun would fail, and the world would be plunged into eternal night, consumed by skeletal star demons. Human sacrifice to Huitzilopochtli was therefore not an act of cruelty, but a desperate and necessary measure to arm their divine champion for his nightly war. The hearts offered to him were the fuel that kept the cosmos running, the ultimate offering to ensure the survival of their people and the world. He was a god of relentless demand, a reflection of the sun's own unyielding cycle of death and rebirth each day. But the sun was not the only force that demanded appeasement. The very earth beneath their feet and the sky above them had their own divine masters. Tlaloc, the goggle-eyed god of rain and storms, held the power of life and death over agriculture. He could bless the fields with gentle, life-giving showers, ensuring a bountiful harvest of maize, the staple of Aztec life. Or he could unleash his fury in the form of devastating floods, hailstorms, and withering droughts. Appeasing Tlaloc was a matter of survival. The Aztecs believed that the tears of the sacrificed, particularly children, were sacred to him, mirroring the raindrops he provided. His rituals were timed with the agricultural seasons, a solemn plea for balance, enough rain to grow food, but not so much that it destroyed their world. His dual nature, both a provider and a destroyer, made him one of the most feared and revered deities. Offerings to Tlaloc were an investment in the future, a way to negotiate with the unpredictable and often violent forces of nature that governed their daily existence. Then there was Tziptotec, our Lord the Flayed One. He was the god of spring, of new vegetation, and the patron of goldsmiths. His rituals were among the most visually striking and deeply symbolic in the Aztec world. In a ceremony held at the start of the planting season, a priest would don the flayed skin of a sacrificed victim. This gruesome act was not mere spectacle. It was a powerful metaphor for renewal. Just as a seed must break its outer shell to sprout, and a snake sheds its skin to grow, the priest wearing the skin symbolized the earth shedding its dry, dead husk of winter to bring forth the fresh green shoots of spring. For 20 days, he became a living embodiment of regeneration. The decay of the skin he wore mirrored the process of germination taking place in the fields. Tziptotec's worship was a profound meditation on the brutal, yet necessary, cycle of death and rebirth that underpins all life. To the Aztecs, growth could only emerge from decay, and new life was only possible through the sacrifice of the old. The act of sacrifice itself was a meticulously orchestrated ritual, a sacred performance at the heart of Aztec spiritual life. It was not random violence or chaotic slaughter. It was a solemn, highly structured metaphysical transaction. The grand temples, like the Templo Mayor in the heart of Tenochtitlan, were cosmic mountains, sacred stages where the human and divine realms converged. A victim, often a captured warrior from an enemy state, was treated with honor in the days leading up to the ceremony. They were seen not as a mere mortal, but as an impersonator of the god, a vessel for the divine. Dressed in the god's regalia, they were feasted and celebrated. When the moment came, they were led up the steep temple steps, a symbolic ascent from the earthly plane to the heavens. The act of extracting the heart was swift, performed by skilled priests with obsidian blades. The heart, still beating, was raised to the sun, a direct offering of tonali. The body was then cast down the steps, a reenactment of the gods casting themselves into the primordial fire. This was humanity's role in the cosmic drama, to bridge the gap between earth and sky, to channel life force from their world to the gods, and in doing so to actively participate in the preservation of the universe. So, who were the sacrificed? While many were enemy warriors captured in the so-called Flower Wars, ritual battles fought specifically to obtain captives for sacrifice, others came from within Aztec society. In times of extreme drought or famine, people might offer their own children to Tlaloc, a heart-wrenching decision made out of communal desperation. Slaves or even volunteers could also be chosen, seeing it as a noble death and a direct path to a glorious afterlife. For a warrior, to die on the sacrificial stone was as honorable as dying in battle. They believed it guaranteed their soul a place accompanying the sun on its daily journey. This was not a system driven by a thirst for blood, but by a profound sense of duty. Every member of society, from the emperor to the farmer, understood their place in this cosmic order. The world was a fragile entity, constantly teetering on the brink of collapse, and only through constant, shared sacrifice could it be sustained. This worldview permeated every aspect of Aztec life. Their calendar, their wars, their art, and their architecture were all designed to serve this single, overarching purpose: to feed the gods and keep the cosmos in motion. The empire's expansion was driven not just by a desire for tribute and territory, but by the religious necessity of securing a steady supply of offerings for the gods. The Templo Mayor, with its twin shrines to Huitzilopochtli and Tlaloc, was the physical and spiritual epicenter of this sacrificial system. It was the point where the lifeblood of the empire was channeled upward to the divine. The cyclical nature of their rituals mirrored the cycles of the heavens and the earth, the daily journey of the sun, the monthly phases of the moon, and the yearly turn of the seasons. It was a worldview of immense and terrifying responsibility. The fate of the universe rested squarely on their shoulders. In the end, the Aztec cosmos was an engine fueled by sacrifice. It was a worldview born from a story of divine self-giving, which in turn demanded a perpetual human response. This was not a religion of quiet contemplation, but of active, constant participation in the maintenance of reality. Every sunrise was a victory they had helped to win. Every harvest was a gift they had helped to secure. For the Aztecs, the universe was not a given. It was a project. A fragile, magnificent, and terrifying project that required their unwavering commitment, their courage, and ultimately, their very lives. To prevent the final cataclysm, to hold back the darkness, and to ensure the continuation of the sun, the world, and their people, the debt had to be paid. Life had to be given so that life could continue. Imagine this. Amidst the smoke and chaos of battle, two legendary warriors clash. One, adorned in the feathers of a majestic eagle, the other in the spotted hide of a powerful jaguar. This isn't just a skirmish. It's a glimpse into the heart of the Aztec Empire, a civilization forged in the crucible of constant warfare, which rose to become the undisputed master of Mesoamerica. For the Aztecs, war wasn't just an option. It was the very air they breathed, the engine that drove their society, and the foundation upon which their magnificent world was built. So how did a single city-state, Tenochtitlan, grow to dominate a vast and diverse landscape? The answer lies in a relentless and brilliantly executed strategy of military expansion. Picture a map of central Mexico, around the 14th century. We start with a small island city. But watch as its influence spreads, decade by decade, like a wildfire across the land. Each campaign, each victory, wasn't just about gaining territory. It was about securing a vital lifeline of resources. The Aztec war machine wasn't self-funded. It was fueled by the spoils of conquest. After a city-state was subdued, a system of tribute was imposed. From the conquered lands, a steady stream of wealth flowed into the bustling heart of the empire, Tenochtitlan. We're talking about chests overflowing with shimmering gold dust and intricate jewelry. We're talking about warehouses piled high with brilliantly colored textiles, woven with patterns that told stories of their own. Precious feathers from exotic birds, essential for ceremonial attire, and perhaps most importantly, cacao beans, the currency and beloved drink of the elite. This tribute system was the economic backbone of the empire. It funded further military campaigns, financed the construction of breathtaking temples and pyramids, and supported the lavish lifestyle of the nobility. War was a profitable business, and business was booming. But not all Aztec wars were fought for land and loot. There was another, far more enigmatic and terrifying form of conflict, the Flower Wars, or Itil. These were prearranged, ritualized battles fought against specific rival city-states, like Tlaxcala. The objective wasn't to conquer or destroy, but something far more chilling, to capture enemy warriors alive. Why? Because these captives were destined for the most sacred and fearsome of Aztec rituals, human sacrifice. Imagine a solemn procession through the streets of Tenochtitlan. Captured warriors, paradoxically treated with a degree of honor as they were considered messengers to the gods, are led towards the great temple. At the summit, a high priest, embodying the power and authority of the gods themselves, awaits. This practice served a dual purpose. On a religious level, the Aztecs believed that the blood of brave warriors was the sacred nourishment, the Chalcahuatl, needed to sustain the gods, particularly Huitzilopochtli, the god of sun and war. Without it, they believed the sun would cease to rise and the universe would descend into darkness. But on a psychological level, it was a masterful tool of control. The Flower Wars sent a clear and terrifying message to every corner of the empire and beyond. The Aztecs were not just militarily superior. They held the power of life and death, sanctioned by the gods themselves. It was an instrument of fear that kept allies in line and potential enemies at bay, a constant reminder of the price of defiance. To fuel this perpetual war machine, Aztec society was structured from the ground up to produce one thing: warriors. From a very young age, every Aztec boy was groomed for a life of conflict. They entered rigorous military schools called Telpocali, where they learned not just the art of combat, but discipline, endurance, and the sacred duties of a warrior. Life was tough. Training was brutal. They were taught to withstand pain, hunger, and hardship, forging them into hardened soldiers. As they proved their mettle in battle by capturing enemies, they could ascend a strict social hierarchy. At the very pinnacle of this warrior society were the elite military orders, the rock stars of their day, the Eagle Warriors and the Jaguar Warriors. The Cowidli, or Eagle Warriors, adorned themselves with magnificent eagle feathers and helmets carved to look like an eagle's head, believing they channeled the bird's keen sight and aggressive spirit. Their counterparts, the Ocelotl or Jaguar Warriors, wore the pelts of the powerful jaguar, a creature revered for its strength, stealth, and ferocity in the night. These weren't just costumes. They were symbols of immense achievement and societal prestige. To be an eagle or jaguar warrior was to be a living legend, a protector of the empire who enjoyed wealth, land, and the respect of all. They were the embodiment of the Aztec ideal, the perfect fusion of martial prowess and religious devotion. Of course, a warrior is only as good as his weapons, and the Aztec arsenal was as deadly as it was unique. Forget steel swords. The signature weapon of the Aztec warrior was the Mecoehuitl. This wasn't a sword in the traditional sense, but more like a wooden club or paddle, embedded with razor-sharp fragments of obsidian volcanic glass. A blow from a Mecoehuitl was devastating. Accounts from the Spanish conquistadors describe it as being capable of decapitating a horse with a single strike. The obsidian blades were so sharp they could inflict horrific wounds, designed to maim and incapacitate rather than kill outright, which was perfect for capturing enemies for sacrifice. For ranged combat, they used the Atlatl, a sophisticated spear-throwing device. The Atlatl acted as a lever, essentially extending the thrower's arm, allowing them to hurl a light spear or dart, called a tlacochtli, with incredible force, speed, and accuracy over much longer distances than by hand. It was a deadly projectile weapon that could pierce through the padded cotton armor worn by most Mesoamerican soldiers. On the battlefield, Aztec commanders were masters of strategy. They employed complex tactics, using the terrain to their advantage. And they would use flanking maneuvers to surround their enemies and utilized psychological warfare. Imagine the terrifying sound of thousands of warriors screaming, blowing conch shell trumpets, and banging drums, followed by a shock and awe charge of the elite Jaguar and Eagle warriors. It was a spectacle designed to break the enemy's spirit before the first blow even landed. So, when we look at the Aztec Empire, we see a civilization where war was not a separate department of the state. It was woven into the very fabric of existence. It was their economy, their religion, and their social structure all rolled into one. War fed their people, appeased their gods, and gave meaning to their lives. From the young boy entering military school to the elite warrior commanding respect from the tribute flowing, into the capital to the captive, walking his final steps to the temple. Every aspect of Aztec life was touched and defined by the blade of the Macuahuitl. As we stand back and look at the magnificent city of Tenochtitlan at its absolute zenith, a sprawling metropolis of canals, pyramids, and floating gardens, home to hundreds of thousands of people, we must remember what it was built on. It was a city born from conflict, sustained by conquest, and sanctified by sacrifice. The Aztec Empire was, in its purest form, a testament to the awesome and terrifying power of a society completely and utterly dedicated to the art of war. In the early 16th century, deep in the heart of what we now call Mexico, a magnificent empire flourished. This was the world of the Aztecs, a civilization of immense power, wealth, and architectural genius. Its heart was the island city of Tenochtitlan, a bustling metropolis larger than any European city of its time, a jewel of pyramids and palaces rising from the shimmering waters of Lake Texcoco. The Aztecs commanded a vast territory, their influence stretching far and wide, built on tribute, trade, and military might. But on the horizon, a change was coming, one that would shatter their world forever. In 1519, strange apparitions appeared on the eastern coast. To the Aztecs, they were floating mountains, moving across the water as if by magic. On board these colossal vessels were men unlike any they had ever seen, with pale skin, hair like the sun, and armor that glinted with an otherworldly light. They were the Spanish conquistadors, led by an ambitious and cunning man named Hernán Cortés. For the Aztec people, the arrival of these strangers sparked a mixture of awe, curiosity, and a deep, unsettling fear. An ancient prophecy was about to be reawakened. The Spanish made their way inland, their presence sending ripples of unease through the empire. At the gates of the Grand Tenochtitlan, the two worlds finally met face to face. Emperor Moctezuma II, the revered ruler of the Aztecs, came out to greet the newcomers. It was a meeting steeped in ceremony and suspicion. Moctezuma was a deeply religious man, and his mind was troubled by an ancient legend. The prophecy foretold the return of the feathered serpent god, Quetzalcoatl, who had sailed east long ago, promising to one day reclaim his throne. The prophecy said he would return in a one-reed year, and 1519 was just such a year. Looking at Cortés, with his strange appearance and powerful technology, Moctezuma wondered, could this be the god himself, returned as promised? This single fateful belief would set in motion a chain of events that would seal the fate of his empire. He welcomed Cortés into his city, not as an invader, but as an honored and perhaps divine guest. Inside the city walls, the Spanish were dazzled by the splendor of Tenochtitlan, the vast markets, the intricate canals, and the sheer scale of the temples. But this initial period of cautious hospitality soon gave way to tension. The fundamental differences between the two cultures were too vast to ignore. It was a clash of worlds in every sense. The Spanish possessed a military technology far beyond anything the Aztecs could imagine. Their gleaming steel swords could slice through Aztec cotton armor with ease. Their cannons and arquebuses belched fire and thunder, creating chaos and terror on the battlefield. And then there were the horses, creatures the Aztecs had never seen, which gave the Spanish cavalry a terrifying advantage in speed and power. Against this, the Aztec warriors, though brave and numerous, fought with weapons of wood and obsidian. Their Macuahuitl, a wooden club edged with razor-sharp obsidian blades, was a fearsome weapon, but it was no match for Spanish steel. Recognizing his numerical disadvantage, the cunning Cortés employed a brilliant and brutal strategy: divide and conquer. He learned quickly that the Aztec Empire was not universally loved. Many neighboring tribes and subjugated peoples resented the Aztecs' heavy-handed rule and the constant demand for tribute and sacrificial victims. Cortés skillfully exploited this resentment, forging powerful alliances with tribes like the Tlaxcalans, who had long been bitter enemies of the Aztecs. Suddenly, Cortés' small band of conquistadors was reinforced by tens of thousands of native warriors, all eager to see the mighty Aztec Empire brought to its knees. The stage was set for a conflict that would tear the region apart. But the most lethal weapon the Spanish brought with them was not made of steel or gunpowder. It was an enemy they couldn't see, an invisible assassin that traveled on their breath and on their skin. The peoples of the Americas had lived in isolation for thousands of years, and their bodies had no natural defense against the diseases that had ravaged Europe for centuries. Smallpox was the first and most devastating of these plagues. When it arrived in Tenochtitlan, it spread like wildfire through the densely packed city. The disease was horrific, It covered its victims in painful erupting sores, brought raging fevers, and killed with terrifying speed. The Aztecs had no concept of quarantine, no immunity, and no medicine to fight it. People died in their homes, in the streets, and in the canals. The social fabric of the city began to unravel. Farmers, warriors, priests, and even nobles were struck down indiscriminately. Within months, the population was decimated. Some historians estimate that smallpox wiped out as much as 40% of the population of central Mexico in just 1 year. This biological catastrophe weakened the Aztec war machine from the inside out, creating a level of chaos and despair that courts would soon exploit to its fullest. The unseen enemy had done more damage than any army could. With the city weakened by disease and his own forces bolstered by his native allies, courts prepared for his final move. In May of 1521, the siege of Tenochtitlan began. It was a brutal, merciless assault. Courts blockaded the causeways that connected the island city to the mainland, cutting off all supplies of food and fresh water. His men constructed brigantines, small sailing vessels armed with cannons, which allowed them to control the lake and attack the city from the water. The combined Spanish and Tlaxcalan forces launched a relentless, street-by-street, house-by-house invasion. The Aztec warriors, now led by the heroic Cuauhtémoc after Moctezuma's death, fought back with incredible courage and desperation. They defended every bridge, every canal, every rooftop. For nearly 3 months, the city became a bloody battlefield. The fighting was ferocious and personal, a desperate struggle for survival, but the odds were insurmountable. Starvation and thirst weakened the defenders, while the relentless bombardment from Spanish cannons and the sheer number of allied native troops slowly ground them down. The Spanish systematically destroyed the city as they advanced, tearing down the magnificent pyramids and palaces to fill in the canals and create open ground for their cavalry. The once pristine waters of the lake turned red with blood. On August 13, 1521, it was over. The last pocket of resistance collapsed. The great city of Tenochtitlan, the heart of the Aztec Empire, fell. The capture of the last emperor, Cuauhtémoc, signaled the end. The once vibrant capital was now a smoldering ruin, filled with the dead and dying. The Spanish and their allies had won a total, devastating victory. The fall of Tenochtitlan was not just the end of a city. It was the end of a civilization. In the rubble of the Aztec capital, the Spanish began to build a new city, Mexico City, the capital of a new colony they called New Spain. The Aztec temples were torn down, and on their foundations, Christian churches were erected. The Aztec people were subjugated, their culture suppressed, and their way of life irrevocably changed. The conquest of the Aztecs represents one of history's most dramatic and consequential collisions of two worlds. It was a story of ambition, prophecy, technology, disease, and betrayal. It ushered in an era of European colonization in the Americas that would reshape the globe, creating a new world order forged in fire and blood. The legacy of this event is complex and profound, a testament to the fragility of empires and the enduring consequences that ripple through history, long after the battles have been lost and won. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the past fascinating, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next historical deep dive.